When we search for the origin of our existence, we eventually discover that we came from a man, a woman, and a sexual act. Theories, concepts, and reasoning did not create us. Sex did. The energy that brought us into existence is the only force capable of transforming us completely. This transformation begins with understanding the ancient practice of semen retention. When people reject the mysteries of sex or call it animal-like, brutal, or purely material, they are actually speaking against the divine creative force. We should remember that sexual energy is the wonderful expression of the creative power that constantly brings new life into the world. This creative energy, when properly conserved, becomes the foundation of spiritual growth. Unfortunately, many people view sex with unhealthy attitudes. In ancient times, sexuality was considered sacred and honored rather than seen as shameful or dirty. The famous psychologist Freud noted in his works that all religions have connections to sexuality at their roots. These connections often included teachings about the conservation of vital essence. When we study the religions of native tribes across the Americas, Africa, or Asia, we find gods and goddesses depicted in loving embraces. These postures were considered sacred in ancient India and other cultures, not vulgar as they might be viewed today. Many ancient teachings emphasize the importance of maintaining control over the sexual energies. In Greece and Rome, in temples dedicated to Vesta, Venus, Aphrodite, and Isis, priestesses performed sacred sexual ceremonies. At that time, the male sexual organ was not considered in the crude way we think of it now. Instead, it was worshipped as a symbol of creative power. The practice of semen retention was often a central aspect of these temple mysteries. The priests of ancient Egypt represented their god Ibis with an erect phallus, which had an inscription saying, "Giver of reason in truth." Many divine beings across cultures had sexual aspects, including Shiva and Shakti in India, Legba in Africa, and Venus, Bacchus, and Dionysus in Greece and Rome. All were connected to the mysteries of creative energy. Even the practice of circumcision has phallic origins, and the Bible contains many references to sexuality. In Homer's songs about ancient Troy, one sees clearly that sacred sexual practices formed the foundation of the Eleusinian mysteries and temples. These practices often required initiates to learn the discipline of conserving their vital fluids. At the Aztec temples, men and women would remain naked for extended periods, caressing each other and practicing sexual connection without releasing their vital energies. They knew how to stop before spilling what they called the sacred wine. This practice of energy conservation was fundamental to their spiritual disciplines and physical health. Those who failed to control themselves and release their sexual fluids were severely punished, sometimes even facing death. This shows how seriously these practices of semen retention were taken. Ancient cultures understood that preserving the vital essence was essential for spiritual development. In the ancient wisdom teachings, there are references to the Holy Grail, which some say Jesus drank from during the Last Supper. The knights of the Middle Ages searched for this sacred cup, but never found it. The cup that winners receive at the Olympic Games serves as a reminder of this quest. This Holy Grail actually represents the female sexual organs, while the lance that wounded Jesus symbolizes the male creative power. Together, they form the complete mystery of sacred sexuality and energy transformation. The ancient traditions taught that conserving the vital essence was essential for developing higher faculties. Warriors and spiritual leaders alike were instructed in these practices to increase their strength, clarity of mind, and connection to divine guidance. Many historical accounts describe the extraordinary abilities that developed in those who mastered these techniques. The science of sexual alchemy and its secret methods can be found in the books of Paracelsus, Flamel, and other ancient alchemists. The key to this practice is very simple: sexual connection without releasing the vital energies. This preserves the powerful creative force within and allows it to be transformed into spiritual energy. This practice was the top secret of medieval alchemists. There are special sounds or mantras that can be used during this practice, which have been shared in various spiritual books. These sounds help redirect the energy upward through the spine instead of allowing it to be expelled. The proper breathing techniques, also play an important role in this transformation process. This knowledge becomes especially important now as we have entered a new age in human development. As humanity faces increasing challenges, the need for individuals with developed consciousness grows. The conservation and transformation of sexual energy provides a direct pathway to expanding awareness and accessing higher knowledge that can help address these challenges. On February 4, 1962, the Age of Aquarius began. This astrological age is governed by Uranus and Saturn. Uranus has an explosive and revolutionary nature and rules the sexual glands. The word Uranus itself contains two parts, meaning fire, and anus meaning water. This new age brings renewed focus on the ancient practice of semen retention as a path to higher consciousness. The Age of Aquarius is fundamentally about sexuality. Its symbol is a woman with two jars of water trying to wisely mix the waters. This symbolizes sexual alchemy. In the previous age of Pisces, humans were slaves to their sexual instincts, represented by two fish in water. Now we must learn a more conscious approach to this powerful energy. In Aquarius, we must learn to transform our sexual energies through disciplined semen retention. We need to work with the waters of life, the creative forces within the sexual fluids. The Age of Aquarius brings revolutionary changes, and the mysteries of sex must be revealed during this time, because Uranus rules this constellation. The practice of conserving vital essence becomes increasingly important in this new era. We cannot truly embrace the revolutionary spirit of Aquarius if we reject sexual yoga, or if we follow the path of wasting our sexual energies. Those who reject these teachings out of ignorance do not understand the secret doctrine taught by spiritual teachers throughout history. The transformation of consciousness that humanity needs now depends on understanding these principles. The Christian esoteric teachings included knowledge of sacred sexuality and semen retention. These practices were known to early Christian groups like the Essenes, who had their community near the Dead Sea. Jesus himself, the Rabbi of Galilee, was one of their most respected members. The Essenes were known for their purity and their understanding of how to transform sexual energy through careful conservation. Ancient texts tell us that in the sunny country of Chem, Egypt, the Lord of Perfections, Jesus, worked with this great secret before beginning his mission. Sacred sexuality has been known universally in all mystery schools, Northern, Southern, Western, and Eastern, though it was never openly revealed. This sacred knowledge was protected and only shared with those who demonstrated worthiness through moral discipline. Many passages in Christian texts can be understood as referring to these practices when interpreted esoterically. For example, references to not spilling oil from the lamp and maintaining the wedding garment relate to conserving the vital essence. The kingdom of heaven can be understood as the higher state of consciousness achieved through this practice of transmutation. There are three types of sexual behavior people can have. The highest is suprasexuality, the transformation of sexual energy for spiritual development through dedicated semen retention. Then there is normal sexuality, the healthy expression of sex for love and reproduction. Finally, there is infrasexuality, which has two branches, Lilith and Nehema. The path of suprasexuality requires understanding how to redirect and conserve the vital creative essence. Normal sexuality involves a loving couple who marry, care for each other, and have children without sexual conflicts. This natural expression fulfills the purpose of continuing the human species and provides a foundation for a healthy relationship and family life. Even within normal sexuality, understanding the value of occasionally conserving the vital essence can enhance health and deepen the loving bond. Those who hate sex live in the infrasexual sphere of Lilith. There was once an old religious teacher who preached a certain spiritual doctrine. Everyone respected him as a holy man until a woman discovered the truth when he asked her for an unnatural sexual union, claiming it was for spiritual initiation. This perverted approach represents a complete misunderstanding of true spiritual sexuality. This man hated sacred sexual practices and called them dangerous, yet he had no problem suggesting improper relations to his followers. This is typical of sexually degraded people. They try to corrupt those with normal sexuality while pretending to be spiritually superior. They reject the proper understanding of semen retention while promoting unnatural practices. In the Lilith sphere, we also find people who perform abortions, and those who use artificial means to prevent birth, committing crimes against nature. Birth control for family planning is a necessity, but abortion is considered harmful to natural processes. These practices show a fundamental disconnection from the sacred nature of creative energy. The Lilith sphere also includes those who engage in self-pleasure to the point of depleting their vital energies. When someone releases sexual fluids, there's a certain movement that follows in which energy is normally exchanged between partners. But in self-stimulation, this exchange doesn't happen. The energy is wasted, and the physical system becomes depleted over time. The sphere of Lilith is marked by cruelty. Here we find the most horrible crimes reported by police: sadism, violence against children, monks and nuns who hate sexuality, people who enjoy causing pain to others, and more. Those deeply in this sphere have little chance for spiritual growth. Their actions show extreme imbalance in the management of sexual energy. They actively reject the creative divine force. While many mistakes can be forgiven, turning against the creative power of life cannot be. Sexual energy is an expression of the divine mother principle, and those who hate this principle are rejecting the source of life itself. This rejection creates a barrier to spiritual development that is difficult to overcome. Nahima is the sphere of unbridled passion, adultery and sexual obsession. In this infrasexual sphere are people who cheat on their partners, sex workers, those obsessed with sexual pleasure, people full of pride and vanity, and those who repeatedly divorce and remarry. They lack the discipline to practice proper conservation of vital energy. Here we also find seductive men and women who leave their homes bewitched by temporary attractions. People in the Nahima sphere might try sacred sexual practices but fail because they enjoy physical pleasure in an uncontrolled way. They are easily offended, passionate, fond of luxury, and constantly seeking external stimulation to satisfy their desires. They are slaves to social expectations, frequently indulge in alcohol, attend many parties, and are overly concerned with fashionable appearances. They use sexuality primarily for pleasure without understanding its deeper purpose and spiritual potential. The constant pursuit of stimulation and release actually depletes their vitality and mental clarity over time. Those in this sphere often experience diminishing returns from their pleasures, needing more and more stimulation to achieve satisfaction. This pattern creates addiction and dependency, further removing them from the possibility of experiencing the true transformative power of properly directed sexual energy. Their lives become increasingly dominated by the search for new sensations. Everything that humans are, including thoughts, feelings, and will, comes from modifications of sexual energy. Negative attitudes towards sex cause this powerful energy to become misdirected, leading to serious problems and pushing people toward unhealthy sexual expressions. The practice of semen retention helps resolve these conflicts by properly directing and utilizing this vital force. Hatred of sex, sexual prejudices, disgust toward sex, jealousy, fear, cynicism, sadism, obscenity, pornography, and sexual brutality block the natural channels of sexual energy. This forces the energy to flow through systems meant for mental or emotional energy, which cannot handle such power. The result is imbalance and dysfunction in multiple areas of life. The result is disastrous, like connecting a high-voltage current to a thin wire that overheats and burns out. Therefore, we must be careful about how we manage our sexual energy and avoid wasting it on mental fantasies or unhealthy activities. Learning to conserve and redirect this energy brings harmony to all aspects of our being. Those who engage in lustful conversations, look at pornographic materials, or watch sexually explicit films waste enormous reserves of sexual energy on mental passions. This has serious consequences, including potential sexual dysfunctions, one of the most difficult problems a person can face. The practice of semen retention can help restore proper function and vitality. Religious people who try to suppress their sexuality through strict discipline often become obsessed with it. By trying to confine sex within their prejudices, they become slaves to it, unable to think of anything else. Their excessive focus creates the very problem they're trying to avoid. True sexual wisdom lies in neither suppression nor indulgence, but in transformation. Some believe they maintain perfect sexual self-control in their waking life, but release their energies through unconscious emissions during sleep. For these people, the practice of sexual connection without releasing the vital fluids is recommended as a remedy. With practice, this control becomes instinctive, and the body learns to conserve and redirect the energy even during sleep. Sex and imagination are closely connected. It's impossible to achieve true sexual purity without transforming the imagination into a clear mirror. A young child can look at a beautiful naked person with pure eyes, without feeling any lust. We must become similarly innocent to enter higher spiritual understanding. This requires disciplining the mind as well as the body. Our mental habits directly influence our sexual energy. When the imagination constantly dwells on sexual fantasies, it creates pathways for energy to flow toward release rather than conservation and transformation. By cultivating pure thoughts and directing the mind toward higher aspirations, we support the physical practice of semen retention and energy transformation. The practice of meditation helps develop control over the imagination. By learning to quiet the mind and focus attention, we gain the ability to direct our thoughts away from lustful images and toward higher concepts. This mental discipline works together with physical practices to create the conditions necessary for spiritual transformation through conserved creative energy. When a man and woman join sexually in true love, they become in those moments like divine beings. They form a perfect divine whole. The two halves that have been separated since the beginning of life join to create something miraculous. This is tremendously sacred and holds the potential for profound transformation when properly understood and practiced. During sexual union, the couple is surrounded by powerful divine energy. In these moments of supreme joy and passionate embraces that ignite the soul's depths, we can retain this marvelous light to purify and transform ourselves completely. By practicing semen retention during these sacred moments, both partners can experience expanded consciousness and spiritual insight. When we waste our vital energies, the divine light departs, leaving the door open for animal passion to enter. Then disappointment and disenchantment follow. After some time, many couples begin to look outside their relationship, and their home becomes unhappy. The practice of conserving vital essence during union helps maintain the spiritual connection that keeps love alive. Couples who practice sexual connection with vital energy conservation often report deeper bonds, increased mutual respect, and a sense of sacred partnership that transcends ordinary relationships. The practice creates a field of elevated energy around them that positively affects all aspects of their lives together, from daily interactions to long-term goals and shared spiritual pursuits. When a man releases his seed, he loses millions of reproductive cells, yet only one is needed to create a child. It's unnecessary to waste so many cells. A single one can easily leave the glands without needing to release all the vital fluid. Ancient wisdom taught techniques for conception that preserved vital energy while still allowing for the creation of children. In ancient times, people didn't waste their sexual energies, practicing what we now call semen retention. Couples would join in temples to create children using their knowledge of how to use a single reproductive cell without reaching the point of energy release. Women gave birth without pain, and the spiritual energy rose through the spine. These ancient practitioners understood that conserving the vital essence was essential for spiritual and physical health. Humans lived in harmony with nature, which obeyed them, and they didn't experience suffering. The original mistake of our ancestors was wasting their vital creative energies. When early humans did this, they entered the realm of passion and uncontrolled desire. This has been described as the fall in various religious texts, the descent from a higher state of consciousness to a lower one. Modern humans follow this pattern of uncontrolled sexuality, which is fundamentally abnormal. If we return to the original pattern and restore the sexual system of our origins, our spiritual energy will rise again to transform us into enlightened beings. This restoration begins with learning the proper practice of semen retention and sexual energy transformation. The original sexual system represents normal sexuality, giving us the power to create healthy children or to create beautiful things in art or science. Suprasexuality, on the other hand, is the result of transforming sexual energy into higher forms of creativity and consciousness. This transformation requires understanding and practicing the conservation of vital creative essence. The small lizard can regrow its tail, and humans can regenerate skin. This regenerative power is sexual in nature. The same power can be used to recreate ourselves as superior beings. The key to sexual transformation is the practice of sexual connection without wasting the vital energies. This creates an upward current of creative force that awakens dormant faculties in the brain. The important thing is for couples to learn how to complete the sexual act without reaching the point of energy release, the core practice of semen retention. One must not waste the vital fluids either inside or outside the body. We speak clearly so people can understand, even if some prudish individuals might judge this teaching as inappropriate. The practice of retaining the vital essence has been recognized across cultures as the key to longevity and spiritual awakening. Jesus himself spoke of raising the serpent energy, referring to the transformation of creative force within humans. The superior human is the Son of Man, mentioned by Jesus, the result of spiritual transformation through the alchemical process of refining sexual energy. This transformation is available to anyone who learns and practices the ancient science of vital energy conservation and transmutation. We need to understand what Christ truly represents. Many think only of the historical Jesus, but they don't understand that he taught the doctrine of the Christ within, the spiritual potential in each person. Human life by itself has no meaning if it's just about being born, growing up, working hard, reproducing, and dying. The practice of energy conservation opens the door to discovering our deeper purpose. If that's all life is, it's not worth living. What matters is developing the spiritual potential within the human heart. For this, we must evolve beyond the state of being merely intelligent animals and become complete human beings. First, we must become truly human, and then we can develop into something more. This evolution requires mastery over our creative energies. The Christ consciousness inside the heart of the initiated person transforms them into something beyond ordinary humanity. This superior being has power over the elements: fire, air, water, and earth. The birth of this inner spiritual gold happens through proper understanding and use of sexual energy. When properly conserved and directed, this energy activates latent centers in the brain. Only through the path of perfect loving union and dedicated semen retention can we reach suprasexuality. We need to be born again spiritually to enter higher consciousness. The secret of all secrets lies in what the alchemists called the philosopher's stone, which is actually sexuality and the conservation of vital essence, properly understood and practiced. The alchemical transformation requires preserving and redirecting the creative force. Great spiritual teachers like Buddha, Dante, Pythagoras, Muhammad, Hermes, Lao Tzu, Jesus, and many others understood the secret of semen retention. All these masters are children of the stone. They were born from the proper understanding of the creative power of sexuality and how to conserve and transform it. Blessed is love when properly understood and expressed through disciplined control of the vital essence. This ancient wisdom continues to offer profound benefits to those who practice it with understanding and dedication.